Good evening, everyone. This is Zero here with a quick review of patch 4.1. There's not as many changes as I expected, but there's some interesting ones. Nothing that's really overly game-changing. You'll see a couple of champions rotate in and out of favor because of it, but that's really it. A couple changes to vision, nothing real big. Ward sweeping abilities, which is basically your trinket, and a couple other things. It darkens the fog of war when they are disabled, so you can't see. When you scan a turret, it can't see. That's probably one of the bigger ones. Um, and then, yeah, that's really the only major change to vision. And then champions, we have just little changes to uh, basic attack projectile speed increased to 1400 from 1100. Like, those aren't huge. This might bring Anivia into play a little bit. Mana cost has been reduced on everything, or the Q and the W, not R. I believe R is still 100, 100, 100. Oh, it shows a warning that you're about to leave your ultimate. That's new, actually. And then Annie, actually, so here's the interesting one. Annie got a little bit of a nerf slash buff. So Annie early game is not going to be quite as scary because her stun has been reduced. So it only does 1.25 stun at the beginning. However, at 18, her stun does the same duration it does now. Or at 11, not 18 at max level. At 11, it does 1.5 or 1.75 second stun. The trade-off to balance her out is they decided to reduce her cooldown from 120 on Tibbers for all levels to 120, 180. So at 80, you can have Tibbers up almost the whole time if you have cooldown reduction, which is insane, which means you'll be able to burst people every single team fight. You'll have Tibbers no matter what, pretty much, unless somehow you get 2 team fights in 30 seconds. But you'll have Tibbers almost the entire time. So I think it's a buff to Annie. You'll see Annie more. However, early game isn't quite as good. But I think if Annie starts to shine late game when she DFGs you out of a bush, and you're dead. That's it. And that's going to make it even more. It's going to make it easier to do that. So Evelynn's had some attacks, projectile speed reductions. Ravage been changed to physical from magic damage. Oh, pardon me. And then Agony's Embrace, her R, now gives her the shield immediately instead of 0.5 seconds later after the projectile returns to her. Janna, the only changes are to Monsoon. The heal has been increased, although I believe it was just nerfed, so that's kind of taken it back. And it begins channeling immediately after activation instead of 0.25 seconds, which at my level of play probably doesn't matter, and probably at your level of play, because that probably doesn't matter to a lot of people, but yeah. The heal has been increased, so the total heal has been increased quite a bit as well. Jinx has been changed a little bit. Her base health is down a little bit. Her health per level is up a little bit. It probably balances out about 18. Flame Chompers is now 0.7 seconds every time. I don't know, I can't remember if it's scaled with the level of the ability or if it was random. Oh, I didn't realize that was a bug. Flame Chompers, if you dashed over them, sometimes it wouldn't proc on you. And then reduce damage at earlier levels of Flame Chompers. So Flame Chompers at top level, at level 5, is still going to do 300 damage. But at lower levels, it does actually considerable. It's 20, 15, 10. Yeah, it's quite a bit less damage. Nasus got a little bit of a nerf. So his R no longer increases ranges of Wither and Spirit Fire, and his range of Spirit Fire has actually been, Wither has been reduced 100, which is interesting. That's going to hurt him a little bit, but I think it's still a really good ability, so it shouldn't affect how much Nasus gets played. Rengar has had some changes. Savagery basic attack buff reduced to 2 seconds from 6. So that's a huge nerf. That's 4 seconds off that buff for his Q. And fixed multiple bugs that allowed him to use Savagery more frequently than intended. Yeah, because he could QQ. Yeah, he could triple Q, which was not really supposed to happen. He can double Q with his ult, but that's supposed to be all he could do. And then Battle Roar has some changes. I'm not sure I understand that math. So I believe it's stronger based on your missing health. Kind of acts like Warmogs, but I didn't take time to actually study that math. So it acts a little bit more like Warmogs. If you're missing a lot of health and you have quite a bit of health, you'll regen a lot more than you would have. Riven got some nerfs. So her base attack has been reduced a little bit. Damage per level has been increased a little bit. So again, that'll probably balance out. I think that's actually exactly to balance out at level 18. And then her Q does less damage now. Wait. Yes. It does 60% of total attack damage, which is probably the one that matters most, from 70%, as well as a giant nerf to the base damage. Yeah, it only does 10 damage at level 1, where it used to do 30. So there's a huge nerf to the Q damage there, so that'll be interesting to see. And her E shield has been reduced by a full second. I think this is gonna be one of the ones right here that we see much less Riven now. She'll still be good, but we'll see a lot less of her. That Q damage is insane. The E shield, not a huge deal, but that full second, I mean, that could definitely keep people from playing her a little bit. Shyvana may no longer be the fastest jungle clear. Her damage per second on burnout has been reduced, which means all of her damage has been reduced. Not by a huge amount, but, you know, a noticeable amount. 35 maximum damage reduced, which out of 595 is not that much, I suppose, when you think about it. And then damage from Flame Breath has been reduced at earlier levels, and then Dragon's Descent now correctly matches the tooltip. I was unaware that that was incorrect. Thresh's Lantern is now a little bit easier for newer players to do. It's a little bit more obvious. It's clickable. It'd be interesting to see how the animation works for that. I just kind of want to see it. And Lantern now has small collision radius. I could see that leading to a few mistakes, but it's a good idea, I think. And then delay on wall formation increased to 0.75 seconds from 0.05 seconds, which means if you're fast, you can pretty much get out of there if you're not being slowed. Yasuo's got some changes. The most interesting one is Wind Wall no longer blocks friendly Syndra orbs. That would suck. Now properly applies the 10% critical strike damage reduction to static Shiv critical hits. Improve the functionality of his E sweeping blade to Q. I'm not sure how they'll do that, but I kind of want to see it. And then Our Last Breath now grants maximum flow on cast. Spell animation shortened by 0.1 seconds. Now less likely to be teleported out by enemies spamming flash. Now properly alerts spectators and allies when it's on cooldown. Huh. And then just some minor changes. Caitlyn's Ace in the Hole doesn't have a visual bug out anymore. Oh my goodness, they buffed Darius. I didn't see that coming. I must have missed this. It's now 20 seconds on his ult after he uses it the first time instead of 12. Oh, they were... Terrify would cause enemies to flee in a straight line instead of random directions. That could definitely be used at higher levels for some interesting things. I guess that was a testing bug. That's the first time I've seen that. Fiora could teleport while casting Blade Waltz. That's OP. Mal Healed now correctly matches the tooltip at 20% across all ranks. Oh, Spirit Dread there. Jarvan's passive fixed a bug where martial cadence would sometimes trigger on towers. Lux's Final Spark now goes on cooldown when it finishes casting instead of when it begins casting. Oh my goodness, if Lux dies while casting Final Spark, it will no longer go on cooldown. I suppose that makes sense if it goes at the end. That's a really interesting change, because I find when I play Lux, she gets focused as soon as you start to ult. Malzahar now halts the target's movement if they were being moved by a friendly effect. Dashes jumps. Interesting. Oh, this is ult, so it just kind of stuns them now. Nami's ult has the same change as Lux's, so it's the same information. Fixed a bug where bushwhacks could be placed on walls. It's ridiculous. Oh, so now it acts like wards. So if you place it somewhere unplaceable, it'll just go to the nearest place it can. That's within 900 units. Olaf Undertow is reduced to 45% of max level from 55. Talon is Cutthroat now teleports Talon slightly further behind his target. And Twist of Fate wildcards targeting indicator updated to show the individual targeting lines. Alright, so here's the item changes. Not huge, but Ravenous Death Cap now shows you how much ability power you're actually getting from the unique passive, so not a huge change, but sometimes interesting to know. Spirit Visage has been changed to 10% cooldown reduction, which will make me get it less, because it's a big part of the reason I get it, because it has really good stats, and the cooldown reduction is a big part of what I like to have on tanky champs, so you can use your abilities more often, obviously. Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but probably fitting. Sunfire Cape has been changed to damage per level, which means instead of doing 40 damage at all ranks, it will now do 25 plus character level. So at level 18, you'll do 43 damage, which is a little bit more, but earlier levels it will do much less damage. And then all the jungle items now no longer give health and mana regen. They just give you 8% damage dealt to monsters and as health and 4% as mana. And it gives half the effect for area of effect. Yeah, so they've all been changed to the exact same model, and they do say they're going to be making more changes. So that's my review of patch 4.1. I hope you enjoyed. Questions, comments, or remarks, throw them down below, and I look forward to playing with you soon.